The world's problems may not be solved by politicians or world leaders, but may be put on the shoulders of millennial innovators. If the private sector is to be the engine of growth, young entrepreneurs are the key. I'm Jennifer Wong.
And I'm Brittany Castro.
Of Next Generation Startups. And today we're joined by Daniel Gross, who serves as the Southern California president of the Kairos Society. The Society hopes to foster world change through startups and entrepreneurs. And he received the prestigious Marsha Israel Award from the University of Southern California for his efforts. Thanks for joining us, Daniel.
Of course, my pleasure.
So how can young entrepreneurs impact social change?
Well, it's interesting because we live in a time right now where there's a bubble in entrepreneurship. We have the social figures that are very apparent in society, like Mark Zuckerberg and Evan Spiegel, who make apps and companies that have no real revenue stream or no real impact on humanity other than the social good that they foster. That being said, it's easy for young entrepreneurs to focus on those sorts of startups, on a startup where they're trying to get users on the platform and then figure out a business model, whereas a person who's looking at solving a more intense, a bigger problem in the world like medical research, cancer, energy solutions, food solutions, things of that sort, it's a much harder goal to achieve as a 20-something-year-old entrepreneur.
So what do you think is one of the biggest social issues that can be solved?
Well, the three that Kairos focuses on are clean tech, education, and healthcare. The idea being that those are problems that our generation faces, but solutions to those problems will not only benefit our generation, but those to follow us. And Kairos aims to give people focusing on those challenges all of the resources they need to basically level the playing field, so it's as easy to focus on something like that as it would be to make Snapchat.
And also the society partners with some pretty well-known names, right? GE, Johnson & Johnson. How are they helping and how is it integrated?
What we do, there's what we call an innovation gap between where we are and a company like J&J. So they have their ways that things work, where people know what can and cannot be done in the certain companies. And so companies come to us, they sponsor a challenge where they present a specific idea or concept that they believe needs to be solved. For example, with Johnson & Johnson, it was the future of mobile healthcare. We had a breakout session with leading executives from J&J. They presented everything we need to know about mobile healthcare, what they see as the benefits, the challenges, what they've done and what they haven't done. And then we had breakout sessions with all of the Kairos fellows that were at this event. We broke into groups and had sort of a hackathon of presenting and coming up with ideas that we could pitch to J&J. And out of those groups, this happened over the course of one day, 3 of those companies formed and are now working with Janssen Labs.
So they took your idea and have implemented it. Oh, they took the people and implemented it into their own business. Amazing.
Right.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about USC.
Right.
So that award that you won, what did it mean to you?
The award was interesting because as an entrepreneur, we live in a world now where it's a very socially acceptable thing to be starting a company and working on an app or something, and there's very little tangible results that you have to show, especially to my parents, for example. I'm turning down an internship again to be working on a startup kind of a thing. And living in the world where there's the mesh of our generation and our parents, where school is it's a very good measure of your success because that's just what they're used to, grades and things of that sort. Being able to be in this program and be pulling off all of the balancing acts that we're pulling off and then get an award from the school to be able to say, hey, Mom and Dad.
So how do you think that they chose you as the Outstanding Entrepreneur of the Year?
In what sense?
Well, when I was at the awards, and so I saw the program, and you were under the Outstanding Entrepreneur of the Year. So was it the combination of your grades or the projects?
The way it works is that the program is structured from basically idea generation to launching and scaling, and there's classes that cover each of those stages. And so for the students who go through that whole process, the last class is launching and scaling. And so out of that class, which I was in, they chose the top 3 students that they believed really exemplified what the Greif Center wants to show as their ideal students. Those 3, myself included, were then interviewed by Lloyd Greif, who was the founder of the program, and then he chose based off, he asked me for my full life story. I mean, so he heard everything from all 3 of us, and then he chose based off of that what he felt was
It's so impressive, and congratulations on the award. I think it's just fascinating to hear your story because I think going to college and managing the workload's intense enough, but start a company on the side with a social component, I mean, that's a big deal. So how do you manage all of that?
Well, a planner. I have whiteboard walls in all of my apartments, so to-do lists are everywhere, and you definitely have to be very organized with what you need to do and when you need to do it. But as far as the stress management goes, just gotta work out. Eat healthy, live healthy, and get sleep, even though it's kind of hard. The social life is basically the only part that takes the hit.
And the social component, though, concept, do you find a lot of entrepreneurs are incorporating that into their model? If they,
social component?
Like the social change component, like being a conscious business. Is that a trend you're seeing more and more?
It's a trend we're trying to create, because I don't think I see the trend yet, because I think the trend is let's create a photo sharing app or a music sharing or share snippets of songs, things that are very interactive with peers that are cool, so to speak. But it's very hard. It's like, from my parents' generation, a kid growing up saying he wants to be an astronaut and go to the moon. It's like so few people actually do that and focus on such grand challenges that in order to get people to start focusing on things that are that outside of their reach, it's a process. But the point is, Kairos is trying to give them enough resources so that they go, okay, this is actually attainable. We get them in the room with J&J, with Cisco, things that they wouldn't have been able to do on their own. But we're bringing them, they created the company in a day, and they went from the creation to the executives of J&J in one day. And that is a gap that is a very, formidable gap for somebody who's just starting up in class and goes, well, how am I going to ever get there? We bring them there off the bat.
And from what I know, the society is very intimate, right?
Yeah.
There's how many people?
About 10 fellows in Southern California right now, 550-ish fellows in about 50 plus countries right now.
You're always looking for more.
Looking for more, but specifically focusing on these sorts of challenges. I meet great entrepreneurs all the time that are doing interesting things, very driven people, but the point is that we're really focusing on a specific kind of challenge. And so finding those people is very, very difficult. And also finding people who are maybe not there yet, but are trying to focus on those things is even harder because they don't have anything to show for. And we need to figure out what kind of mentality that person has where they're going to be able to take that mentality and with the right resources, then focus on something meaningful.
Is there someone who you knew right off the bat, through an email, through a conversation, that he was for Kairos?
Never off the bat. I'd say I've had to meet everybody in person. Paper is a very easy way of setting yourself up in a way that you can present yourself however you'd like. And so on paper, a lot of people could look like they're Kairos caliber, but they have to present themselves as well. With 10 fellows, we all need to be able to sell ourselves and what the organization does for us on our own.
Well, there's a lot of students graduating right now. What's like the best tip of advice you can give them?
As an entrepreneur?
As an entrepreneur, yes.
I don't know. It's a hard question because for a graduating student, they have, typically if they haven't gone out and found a job right now, they may be working on a startup of their own, and there's a very fine line that you kind of have to tread on in terms of paying for your life and being able to sustain anything you do and building a company where you may have 12 to 18 months of no income and having to live off, the noodles and all of that kind of thing. So I would say as an entrepreneur graduating, I would say definitely come up with tests. Be very, very analytical with whatever you're doing because you don't want to jump into something right now and put everything you have into it and then watch it fail. So be very diligent with the steps you take. Do very low-tech, low-cost tests on the market to make sure that opportunity is there. Kickstarter and those sorts of things are great tools to validate that. And if you have validation, then by all means go for it. But don't do anything without, based off of an idea of, oh, this sounds great to me. Maybe other people will like it.
All right, great advice. So thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank
you for watching. I'm Jennifer Wong.
And I'm Brittany Castro.
Of Next Generation Startups. You can find out more about the Kairos Society at kairossociety.org.